I remember the first time I came to Grace. The first thing I saw was the home team. I got greeted, I think like 3 or 4 times just on my way to get in. I was a little lost, I'll be honest, but just kept coming because it felt right, but I didn't feel the connection yet. Like I was just kind of going through the motions, to be honest. I was lost. And that's why I came to Grace. My life hasn't been easy. As a child, I was always kind of quiet. I think my parents thought I was shy, but I mean, there's pictures of me where I look sad, I look lost. When I was 19, that's when I had my first suicide attempt. I slit my wrist. I still have the scars here. I got sent to the hospital. They stitched me up, and I had taken a lot of pills as well. In case that didn't work, that was my mentality. That's where I got diagnosed with major depression, and that was pretty much it. I didn't receive any help afterwards. They said, you need to go get a prescription to be on meds, and that was it. My parents didn't understand at the time. They picked me up, and they weren't too supportive, but that's because in the Hispanic culture, you don't know what depression is, and they'd never even heard of the word. So after that, I just kind of went through it. I tried every avenue to try to get out of my depression because I couldn't be on meds. I joined the Army, I became a medic, and I thought I was good. But I think it's because I was keeping myself busy, and then once I got to my duty station, it just came back. I had my second attempt when I was in the Army. Our commander said, we're gearing up to go to Afghanistan, like in the next few years, so I'm sorry, man, I can't have somebody like you. When I got out, just trying to get through it. I tried going to school, that didn't work. Then I had my third and final attempt in 2014. I remember I called my parents. I was like, this is it, I'm done. I threw my phone out the window while I was driving. I went to a hotel room, got completely intoxicated, and I had a tendency to punch my face because I felt that's what I deserved. I put the belt around my neck and I leaned forward and I started kind of seeing little stars. I don't know why I didn't go through with it. I mean, I was intoxicated and this is what I thought I wanted, but I couldn't go through with it. So I called my parents. I'm like, come get me. My dad opened the door and he was scared. He saw me. I mean, my eyes were almost swollen shut. After that, him and my parents finally saw, it's like, oh, Jose's not doing this to get attention. Our son is sick. I think a lot of people misinterpret depression. They think it's just sadness, but it's so much more than that. It's this inner dialogue that you have with yourself of, I'm not good enough. No one's ever gonna love me. On top of that, you feel this constant void that you just can't get rid of and you don't know why it's there. So I coped in unhealthy ways, and eventually all those bad decisions added up, and I was incarcerated. I spent 2.5 years. While I was in there, I had a relationship with God. I talked to him, but I didn't have a relationship with Jesus. I didn't know what he had gone through on the cross. I didn't know anything. I got out and I went right back to what I was doing before. Was trying to cope with it. They gave me 2 weeks worth of meds, and then that's it. And I had been on these meds for 2.5 years. So when I got out, here's 2 weeks of meds. Good luck. I got a job at Arizona Pipeline. I was installing gas meters. So I put on this face that I was doing well, but inside I knew I wasn't doing well. And that's why I came to Grace. I remember I was on my way to Grace. I invited a friend and we were talking about my depression. I remember her saying, she kind of put her hand on my head and she's like, you're just in so much pain. And I said, yeah, well, I don't think he's listening. Karen went up on stage and she said that if you're going through a hard time, I want you to have the courage to stand up and we'll pray for you. I wasn't gonna do it. I wasn't gonna stand up. I was like, there's no way I'm doing it. And then a lady in front of me stood up and I got up, and I remember Grayson came down from the stage, put her hand on my shoulder, and Karen prayed for everybody. And then I went home that night and I was laying in bed praying, and I just felt this feeling like it's time. He's gonna love me no matter what. So that night, as I laid in bed, I accepted God And then the following month, I got baptized. Coming to grace is the first time I felt accepted. I was under the impression that people that came to church were perfect. Turns out you don't have to be. Jesus loved people that weren't perfect. And then when I got on the home team, I felt instantly accepted. All of a sudden, I didn't feel shame for my past. And then that day that Grace Church announced what they were going to do with For the One, it was the first time that I've ever felt I was in the right place at the right time. I'm like, this is why I found grace. I went up to Karen and I'm like, how did you guys come up with this? And she said, it was just God. And I showed her my wrist. I was like, I wish this would have been around when I was 19. I think my whole life would be different if there was just a place that really cared about mental health. And the fact that Grace is doing that, I still can't believe it. So on December 3rd, 2019, I was released from prison. And then December 3rd of 2023, I'm sharing my story of how God has changed my life. I know I'm a child of God. I know that God hasn't abandoned me and he never will. I'm here because of him.